Did you notice what everyone missed at Jungkook's military farewell? Are you sure? While the world watched with tearful eyes and trembling hearts, sending off the golden magne of BTS into his mandatory military service, a small yet astonishing detail slipped through the cracks, one that could change the entire way we remember that day. Cameras flashed. Fans sobbed. Messages flooded social media. But no one, not even the most dedicated armies, seemed to notice what was right in front of him. What did Jungkook leave behind that day? And why did he make sure no one would notice? As the gates closed behind him, a symbol of sacrifice and service, Jungkook didn't just walk into duty. He walked away from a secret he's been carrying for years. The farewell wasn't just a goodbye to his fans. It was a coded message, an emotional time capsule, and a silent tribute that has now started to resurface among the most eagle-eyed fans. Let's rewind. On the morning of his enlistment, Jungkook stepped out quietly, wearing a simple uniform and a somber expression. His hair had been cut, as required, but there was something in his eyes that wasn't about nerves or fear. It was the kind of gaze that speaks of unfinished stories and emotions too complex to share in words. Everyone talked about his final live stream before enlistment, the one where he fought back tears and tried to smile. But only now, months later, are fans starting to piece together the puzzle he subtly laid out. Hidden in the background, among his carefully chosen words, was a whisper of something deeper. It was not just about service, it was about closure. Throughout his decade with BTS, Jungkook has always been more than a singer or a dancer. He's a storyteller. And that farewell? It was his most personal story yet. The detail, missed by millions, was nestled in something deceptively ordinary, a song playing softly in the background of his final live. A song he never sang in BTS. A song that was never on any album. A song that, until now, had never been heard publicly. What was it doing there? It wasn't a technical mistake or a random pick. That song, fans later discovered, was a scratch recording from Jungkook's teenage years. A song he wrote alone, in the middle of a winter night in Busan, years before BTS was even formed. A lullaby to someone he never mentioned by name. The lyrics, now translated and dissected line by fans around the globe, speak of a promise, of a return, of missing someone he called only, the one who watches the stars. The voice in the recording is younger, rawer, more vulnerable. Yet the emotion is unmistakable. When asked about it in past interviews, Jungkook would often smile and say, "Some songs are just for the soul, not for the stage." And now we understand why. That song, hidden behind the final moments of his farewell, was never meant for performance. It was a message. And the one it was meant for may not be watching anymore. Speculation exploded online. Was it for a childhood friend? A lost love? A departed family member? No one knows. But the emotion embedded in it sparked an emotional wildfire across the fandom. Even more chilling? The last frame of his farewell video. A seemingly standard scene, Jungkook walking into the enlistment center, but paused at just the right second. Fans noticed his fingers curled subtly in a shape that looked familiar. Not a wave, not a salute, but a small sign only known to longtime armies. The silent hand gesture he once used in a behind-the-scenes clip to signal, "I'll be back." Was it planned? Was it his way of reassuring us? Or was it one final personal goodbye to someone only he remembers? And then there's the photo, posted by Big Hit with a standard caption. But hidden in the pixels, unnoticed by all but the most detail-obsessed, was a nearly invisible bracelet on Jungkook's wrist. Not a fashion accessory, not part of his uniform, but a thread bracelet, frayed and old. Zoom in. Enhance. Rotate. It's the same bracelet he wore in his earliest trainee photos. A bracelet he was never seen with again. Until that day. Why now? Why wear it for this farewell? Some fans believe it's a promise kept. A reminder of where he came from. A tribute to the person he used to be, and maybe someone he lost along the way. Others say it's a message to the fans. Don't forget. Even if I'm gone, The boy who dreamed in silence still remembers, and then the final shock hit, a letter, never meant to be public, leaked from a staff member close to the group. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't scandalous. It was handwritten, short, almost childlike in its simplicity. To the one I couldn't sing for. I hope you heard it. I hope you're smiling now. JK, that was IT'd. N.O. signature. No date. But the handwriting matched Jungkook's from his early notebooks. And the emotion? It matched the song. Suddenly, the farewell wasn't just about enlistment. It was about closure, about memory, about a chapter Jungkook had carried quietly for over a decade and chose to let go of, just before stepping into the unknown. This wasn't just a goodbye. It was a secret, beautifully wrapped in music, silence, and a final wave no one truly understood until now. Everyone missed the detail, but now you see it, don't you? Why didn't Jungkook ever release that song? If it held so much meaning, if it was so raw and real, why keep it buried for so long? The question has haunted fans ever since the clip surfaced. That one melody, unearthed only through background noise, ignited thousands of theories. But the truth may be more painful than anyone expected. Let's go back in time. And the early years of BTS, long before the stadiums and records and Grammy nominations, Jungkook was a shy teenager trying to survive in a world too big and too fast. He had joined Big Hit as a trainee when he was barely 13. In the midst of dance practices, vocal lessons, and relentless pressure, he found solace in writing. Not for an album, not for attention, but for himself. He once said in a rare 2014 interview, "I write down words when I can't say them out loud. Sometimes I sing them, but only to myself." Among those private writings, there was a story, one that few have ever heard in full. According to a staff member who worked with BTS during their debut years, Jungkook had written an entire folder of songs. Many were emotional, but one stood out, a simple ballad, recorded alone in the old studio they used to share in the early days. Just him, a mic, and the dark. The song was called Starlight Shadow. It was never registered, never released. But those who heard it swore it was the most honest thing they'd ever listened to. Because it wasn't just a song. It was grief, wrapped in melody. The theory? It was about someone Jungkook had lost. Not romantically, but someone foundational. An early mentor. A friend. A relative. No one is certain, but then it disappeared. All trace of the song was gone by 2016. When asked about old demos, Jungkook would politely deflect. Maybe someday he'd smile. But behind that smile was always something unspoken. That someday never came. Not until the farewell livestream. SOY now, because maybe the person it was for is no longer alive to hear it. Or maybe Jungkook finally forgave himself. Either way, releasing it, even in secret, in the background, was an act of emotional courage no one expected. And here's where it gets even more mysterious. A former Big Hit audio engineer, who preferred to remain anonymous, confirmed that Jungkook had returned to the old studio just weeks before enlistment. Alone. No schedule. No cameras. The same studio from a decade ago. The same mic. And he asked to reopen a closed project, the original file of Starlight Shadow. Why? To remaster it? To relive it? Or to leave it somewhere? This engineer remembers seeing something strange before Jungkook left. A USB. Old. Worn. Tied with a red string. Jungkook handed it to someone quietly in the lobby, an old staff member who hadn't worked with BTS in years. Was it the only copy? And now comes the emotional twist. That same staff member was later seen near the enlistment site. Not with the main media crowd. Just watching. Holding something small in their hands. Could it be the USB? And if so, why bring it there? Many believe it was meant to be buried. Not metaphorically. Literally. A quiet goodbye to a part of Jungkook's soul he couldn't carry into this new chapter. Because enlistment isn't just a pause in a career. For Jungkook, it marked the end of a journey he started alone as a boy and the beginning of something entirely unknown. IT also explains why, in his last message to fans before going silent, Jungkook used a phrase he'd never used before. Please remember the dreamer. Not the singer. Not the idol. The dreamer that IT shook fans. Why that word? But when paired with the rediscovered song, it makes sense. That song wasn't about performance. It was about dreams, both fulfilled and broken. And to remember the dreamer is to remember the part of Jungkook that existed before fame, before BTS, before the spotlight. And here's something else no one expected. A fan letter, dated 2013, surfaced in a fan cafe last week. It was written by a 14-year-old girl in Busan. The message? A thank you note to a boy she'd met briefly at a local music academy. She called him JK and mentioned how his voice had helped her through depression. She ended the letter with, "If you ever become famous, I hope you don't forget the stars." The stars.